It's December 31st, 1968, and the plane is taking off with 26 people on board, 22 passengers, 2 pilots, and 2 flight attendants. The 14-year-old Vickers Viscount 720 just departed from Perth, Western Australia, and is headed to Port Hedland, where the families of 22 passengers are waiting to join them in celebrating the new year. The weather is perfect, with a clear sky and a mild wind. Both pilots are experienced and familiar with the plane and the itinerary. It's just a routine 3-hour flight at an altitude of 19,000 feet. Hours later, as the passengers are finishing their breakfast and drinks, they're advised to prepare for descent. At an altitude of 7,000 feet, 50 kilometers short of its destination, the pilots receive clearance for further approach and landing at Port Hedland Airport. This is the last radio contact with the crew. They were expected to arrive at the airport just minutes later, but the plane never showed up, and the air traffic control is desperately trying to contact the pilots, but they remain silent. 40 minutes after the last transmission, a Cessna 337 is dispatched from the airport to investigate. It took no more than 10 minutes for the Cessna crew to spot the burning wreckage of the Vickers Viscount. Rescue services and firefighters rush to the scene of the accident only to find that there is nobody to rescue. The pilots never reported any malfunctions or difficulties with navigating the plane. The approach was stabilized and fully controlled until the moment they just fell from the sky like a rock. What happened there? Observing the wreckage, accident investigators discovered that the half of the right wing and its outer engine are located 3,000 feet away from the main fuselage. It was immediately clear that the wing's main spar had fractured in flight, resulting in the separation of the half wing from the aircraft and leaving no chance for the crew to save the day. An uncontrollable downward spiraling occurred moments after the last transmission with airport traffic control, and in just 26 seconds, the Vickers Viscount struck the ground with an enormous vertical speed. 26 seconds between controllable routine landing and oblivion. Someone had to be held accountable for this tragedy. The investigators look into the maintenance record and check if any wing components had been replaced recently. A particular service caught their attention. A new pair of inner-lower booms had been installed on the aircraft in 1964 and had been in use for 8,000 flights, with a mandatory lifespan of 11,400 flights. This was far below the expected resource, and it was exactly this pair of booms that appeared to be the cause of the accident. Or should I say an engineer who installed them was the reason. The Viscount's inner boom lifespan of 11,400 flights was announced with a safety factor of 3.5 for the ground-air-ground cycle, meaning that this unit was supposed to withstand 40,000 flights. Analysis of the wreckage showed that metal fatigue had led to the growth of a crack in a particular place, and it had nothing to do with the construction of the boom. It was about the installation procedure. In the final report, investigators concluded that when the new inner-lower booms were installed on the aircraft in 1958, new engine nacelle rear-mounting fittings were also installed. However, when the new booms were installed in 1964, the fitting first installed in 1958 were reused. To match the old fittings with the new boom and insert the attachment bolts, the maintenance engineer scored 3 bores with a drill. This led to the development of extreme metal fatigue far more rapidly than expected, and the hidden nature of the junction under the wing made it impossible to observe during regular maintenance. A man with a drill, whose name was never discovered, struggled to match the existing fittings with the new mounting holes. Could he even imagine, as he went home that day after his shift, that he just killed 26 people – and left their families to mourn without redeem.
all-new Paul Hogan Show, 7:30 Wednesday on Channel 9.
No solo puede, debe. Míreme a mí, con topoil en mi gasolina.
It's December 31st, 1968, and the plane is taking off with 26 people on board, 22 passengers, 2 pilots, and 2 flight attendants. And if it sounds eerily familiar, well, yeah, this ain't a mistake, because there was another airplane, the very same day. In the afternoon, in Reynosa, Mexico, the Douglas DC-3 arrived at General Lucio Blanco Airport, and the working day for the crew is over. However, there are 22 passengers at the airport who are eager to see their families in Tampico before the new year. Saessa Company meets their desire and schedules an additional trip to Tampico on the DC-3. The destination is less than 500 kilometers away, taking slightly over 1 hour of flight. Dozens of relatives are already gathering at Tampico Airport to meet the plane, rejoicing in Saessa's goodwill. Little do they know that their beloved would fly to a very different destiny. At 4:30 p.m., since the itinerary never takes more than 2 hours, whispers of concern emerge at the airport. Minutes then turn into endless hours, and people start to ask for information about the Douglas DC-3 from Reynosa. First, airport management announces that they diverted to Cuba, then that they've made a stopover in Victoria due to weather conditions. However, it was soon revealed that these statements were a sheer wishful thinking, and Tampico Airport staff has no clue where is the DC-3. Entire families stay at the airport overnight to watch the sunrise in the frantic hope that the plane engines would be heard, but it never happened. The weather conditions also hindered the search and rescue operation until January 2nd, when Tampico Airport arranges for 3 planes to investigate the missing DC-3. However, nothing would be found. Investigators now suspect the worst, that the aircraft had crashed into the ocean. But the next day brings a revelation. One of the rescue teams announces,
"We sighted pieces of the DC-3. No sign of life around the ship."
The ground operation is launched immediately. But the plane had crashed in extremely hard-to-reach terrain in the Sierra de Tamaulipas. It took 2 more days of traveling through thickest of dense forests, first by car, then by horse, and finally by foot to reach the place called Dientes de Moreno, where the accident occurred. But what the envoys find on the spot is much worse than they expected, shocking even the most experienced of rescuers. The flagrant horror of the scene was forever imprinted by the reporter of El Sol de Tampico, Ruben Cepeda.
"That was indescribable. Pieces of meat were seen everywhere, but the flames were scattered in the area of 100 meters around. A strong smell of rotting meat made the atmosphere putrid."
To describe the outcome, it will be enough to say that among 26 victims, only 7 were fully identified. The following investigation revealed that the cause of the tragedy was the pilots losing their course in adverse weather conditions and crashing into a mountain range. Whether it was due to technical malfunction of the 24-year-old DC-3 or due to pilot fatigue remains unknown. But those who were awaiting for the sails on the horizon in Tampico Airport that day were left with unhealed scars on their hearts forever. December of 1968 was truly a disastrous month for civil aviation. Just look at the list of accidents. December 2nd, Fairchild F-27B crashes into Pedro Bay, Alaska, taking life of all 39 passengers and crew on board. December 12, Boeing 707 crashes near Caracas, Venezuela, with all 51 on board lost. On December 24, CV-580 caught trees and crashed in the Bradford area, Pennsylvania. Of the 47 on board, 20 did not survive. The same day, December 24, L-100 crashed in Prado Bay, Alaska. Of the 4 crew members, 2 didn't make it. On December 26, a Mexican DC-3 crashed into a mountain near Ensenada, 12 victims. Again the same day, December 26, Pan American Boeing 707 crashed on Elmendorf Air Force Base, Alaska, taking lives of 3. On December 27, CV-580 crashed into a hangar at O'Hare International Airport, Chicago. Of the 45 people on board, 27 didn't make it. Another one was perished on the ground. And finally, 2 tragedies on December 31st, with similar aircrafts, with identical amount of people on board, drew the bottom line to something that feels very eerie and surreal. You are watching the Northern Philosopher Project. Documentaries and video essays on sensitive and controversial topics. The Northern Philosopher is a place where tragic and sinister events meet dark personalities to give birth to narratives that shape our reality. If you dare to dive into the darkest corners of our past, feel free to join. To support the project, please hit the like button and consider sharing this video through your social media. Don't forget to subscribe the channel and hit notification bell to stay updated. And if you find that this content's worth a penny, you may support the Northern Philosopher via Patreon, where you will gain an early access to uncensored versions of videos and many other benefits. Thank you for your precious time. I hug you all. Sincerely yours, the Northern Philosopher.